It's just been hell. I don't know if I did what was right, but I still think I would do it again.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm particularly happy about it when he goes out, but I'd rather he went to work than stayed at home. I'm quite pleased to see him come back, and if he's a bit late, then, you know, you get a bit agitated. Yes, I suppose that's all there is to say about it. Yes, I'm a bit apprehensive.
I married my wife with the understanding that I didn't want her to go out to work. I promised to keep her, and I wasn't doing that. And if I let my bank balance run out, then I broke my promise. And my first promise was to my wife, not to the union, not to the pick company. That promise was made before them, and that's a promise I would have to keep.
Albert Nichols has broken the strike and returned to work. For his own safety, he's been sent to another pit, and that means a 15-mile trip to meet the police escort.
I was hoping to get redundancy, and I think the NCB would have honoured what they promised me. But of course, we went on a strike. It's a terrible feeling because these chaps I've worked with all my life. That's the hard part about it.
You're picking up stone?
Just to try to stone a man to death, or to hit him with a hilti gun ball. He must be an animal. He can't be a human being anymore, can he?
Top of the hill. Break. Again and again.
There was only 3 of us in that van originally.
Did you ever imagine that a journey to work would be such an ordeal?
No, I never thought. I never thought people would react like that.
We never thought Margaret Thatcher would allow people to congregate. Although we're strong Conservatives, we never ever thought they would allow them to intimidate. We really didn't. We thought they would stop it when they saw how bad it was getting.
Albert, the pickets say they just want the opportunity to talk to you.
We've given them the opportunity twice to speak to us. They've never spoke any sense at all. The only thing they've told us is what I already know, that my parents weren't married, and I'm a scab. So that the pickets have never spoken any sense to me whatsoever.
Albert, why did you decide to go on strike in the first place?
I decided to go on strike through fear. Fear, yeah. I didn't agree with the strike, but being a member of the community and a member of the union, I wouldn't have had any chance of going to work at that period.
What specifically were you frightened of?
I was frightened of the pickets, the hooligans. I was frightened for my wife, I was frightened for the house.
Then why did you decide he should go back to work?
Well, Nick will tell you many, but I should say principle. Really and truly. Yes, I think it is. I mean, it's no good having thoughts and not saying them. I believe that he was doing the right thing by going back. That's the main thing. I don't think anyone should dictate to anybody else ever. Happy New Year to you.
I've been time for the last 2 years, I think
It was the second item. That was the second item on the offer today. Redundancy, if you wanted it.
Albert Nichols will be given redundancy before April.
You're responsible to yourself.
Exactly
Tony?
it. They've allowed it to happen.
Not they, we,
Well,
every single one
the
of us.
ordinary individual.
We've allowed it to happen. We've allowed other people to rule our lives. We're responsible to ourselves for every action we commit.
That's right.
As you know, I've always gone to union meetings. But when it comes that I'm afraid, and I've always advocated people, if people would only go to the union meetings, the left wing could never take over. But the last time I went to the union meeting and I were afraid,
Yes.
they said to the meeting, Tony, was that you've got the lonely left at the door, and as a person such as yourself walked in, they'd give you 4 companions. And as I walked in, they'd give me 6 because I'm a bit bigger than you. And then when they told you to sit, you sat. Because if somebody puts their hand on your shoulder and is big enough, you'll go down. And I've never seen meetings like this. I mean, all right, I've always been at the opposite side, and I've never carried a vote. But at least I've been able to talk. But not now.
So then, if that's the way you feel about that part of it, what would you wish most of all? Other than your redundancy in 1985, which I know is your own overriding thing, what would you like in 85?
Well, I think I'd like the union to collapse completely.
You would, really?
Well, I think as the union, as I do the welfare state, the damn good things. The welfare state is the most wonderful thing I've ever known. But it's that corrupt, and so is the union, until once you get to... I mean, if you take a sack of potatoes and you've got one bad one, you pull it out. But what if you've got 3 parts of one bag? You don't sort them. You just tip it out or you start again. And I think that's where you've got to start with the union now.
Until we start to root out this strong left-wing element in our universities and in our colleges, this will erupt and erupt in various walks of life. I'm sure that this is where the rot started. I think the people who've decided to be revolutionaries have been very, very clever. They've known where to get their foot in and where to keep it in.
But once this is over, if Arthur Scargill lost his job tomorrow, he's still got them supporters.
No,
these left-wing supporters, they will always be there, ready for another time.
It's always been the same. For 10 years we've just had politics coming in, politics coming in.
Albert and Nora Nichols have 4 children. One of them, Timmy, is a striking miner. Have you asked him to break the strike?
Many times, many times. He thinks that if we go back to work, it would destroy the union. And he doesn't want to, he can't imagine a life without a union.
If he wasn't so big, I'd smack his bottom and send him back, to be honest. But he's too big to do that. But it's his decision. It's his decision. I mean, you don't rear children and then tell them what to do you? It's just one of those things.
Are you supporting him?
My husband worked jolly hard to keep him until he was 18. We kept all our children until they were 18, and we always said then they would keep themselves. And he is at liberty to keep himself. No, I wouldn't help him now. And I truly mean that. I wouldn't help him now.
You can't say you disagree with helping striking miners and then give to your son, who is a striking miner.
No.
You can't have two standards. If he, same as the rest of the striking miners, anyone who helps them is doing injustice to the country that they live in.
But it's your own son.
Yeah.
He's not starving, my dear. He can walk in here now and I'll give him a cup of coffee and a cake. But I certainly wouldn't give him any financial help. No,
If he's
I really wouldn't.
He's allowed to think for himself, then he should be allowed to be responsible for his own actions. And I agree with him. Be responsible for your actions. But
Yes.
it's not for me to feed him or to support him.
I
If he
mean,
doesn't
let's put it this way. I think this is more to the point. Nick's principal took him back to work. And we lived in fear for him going back to work. Well, if Tim wants to starve, really and truly, that's his prerogative. That's his right. But to stop him from doing what he decides is the right thing, which is starving, then we wouldn't be doing him any favours. That's what builds character when all's said and done. Isn't it?
So you'd see your own son starve for his principles?
If necessary, if that's what he felt was the right thing to do, I couldn't interfere. That's my son. That's his character that I would be destroying if I interfered. Can't you see that?
Now, it's got down to the state that we're lucky to muster 30 on the picket line, and there's 3 vans and a bus going through. So, and all we get is a bit of shouting. I don't see any hilty guns at all now, and the stones very, very seldom hit us because they push them far enough back that if the stone does hit you, it has no force about it.
What changes have you seen in Albert in the last year?
He's certainly older than a year. And I think not as confident, perhaps. But then I suppose that comes through fear, really. I think that's what's wrong. Or, you know, the sort of things, if you've been a proud person, then you obviously haven't enjoyed, as the union would term it, putting your head down to go to work. I think that is rather stupid because although he's had to put his head down and go up the alleyways, he's shown a great deal more courage than the pickets. But I think that that's had an effect because he's not been able to put his head high and proclaim what he's truly believed. He may have followed his conscience, but he hasn't been allowed to proclaim it, and I think that's had an effect on him insofar that, yes, I think he's lost a bit of confidence that way. I don't like him going for a walk without me, and I don't think he likes me going for a walk without him, so that before we had our own little times, now we both like to make sure they're together. So if anything does happen, it's going to happen to 2 of us, not to 1 of us.
The trouble started on Saturday night. General shouting, scab, scab, scab. But at 11:30, they eventually decided to stone the windows.
Where did the brick come through?
It came through just about there. The bricks finished up, 1 here and 2 at the far end, 1 on that set of drawers there, sideboard.
Well, who are they?
Well, the lads that live on this estate that have known us all their lives. In fact, one of the lads, we brought his mother out of hospital with him when he was born. And we've always tried to help them. It really doesn't matter what we've tried to do, but we have tried to do various things for them. But we've certainly never done them any harm. But we have tried to do them some good. But it hasn't counted for anything.
What does it feel like sitting here at night?
Terrible. Terrible.
It's, for myself, it's not fear. I don't fear.
No, it isn't.
It's the suspense. It's the waiting. The waiting and waiting to wait. You just feel like a sitting duck. If you're fighting, you can get engrossed in a fight. But when you're just sat here, it's quite unnerving when you go up to the top there and you can see there's about half a dozen. You think this number's getting a bit high because your decision is that you've got 3 here, and so you're prepared to take 3 or 4 on. But when the number gets beyond that, then you've got to start wondering, That's not
not my reaction.
No.
My reaction is very different to yours. Last night, I'm ashamed to say, my son had an iron tube and he would have used it. And I've always taught my children that violence doesn't get you anywhere.
Are they trying to get you out?
Out of the house. You mean out of it altogether? I wouldn't know. I don't know what they want to achieve, really. I honestly don't know what they want to achieve. I think they'll succeed, because according to the way they talk, it won't stop after the pit strike is over. And I wouldn't be prepared to go on living this way, and I think we shall have done our duty when it's over. I mean, we've stood a corner, haven't we? And I think also we must have shown people that there's an awful lot of violence that needs attention.
Albert, would you consider being driven out like that?
Well, I don't like the thought of having to be driven out, but I would consider that, yes, I would be driven out. I wouldn't want to carry on life as it is like
And do you know
today.
another thing that's affected us deeply? The church.
Yeah.
I've never been a regular church goer, but we've gone. I've gone more than my husband. And our vicar wrote in the paper that the striking miner should be tolerant of the working miner. And he was definitely, and he is, in favour of the striking miner. I don't think he's in favour of the violence, but he hasn't condemned it. And I don't want to be tolerated for doing what I think is right. I want to be on an equal footing. And I feel so strongly that now, although I've got faith, I haven't got a church, because there's nothing down there. That definitely hit me.
The bitter legacy of the past 12 months means that Albert's been moved to yet another pit in the hope that he won't be recognised as a strikebreaker.
Made a start at 7:30 this morning from our house. Got to work, clocked on, but were informed not to get changed. Hung around, found out that no one's going to move until the parade comes in at 9. Eventually, after the parade, I went across to our porter cabin, told to just check my clothes and check my tools, make sure that I've got everything, which took about half an hour. By this time, I realised that the rest of the chaps weren't going to speak to me. And then just hung around till 12 o'clock, when the boss turned around and said, well, I think it'd be better if you go home, Albert. So I came home. That's the end of the day.
How did you feel about that?
Well, a little upset. It might be beneficial for me, because if I'm an embarrassment to them, they may give me what I want, and that is my redundancy.
Today is the day the miners' strike officially ended. Just one day.
It's a defeat for everybody. The country has lost a tremendous amount of money, which affects everybody. It all comes out of taxes.
Today, the miners' leader, Mr. Scargill, said he wanted his men to return with dignity, with heads held high.
He's won. He intended to bring this country down. He hasn't brought it down, but he's certainly beggared it, hasn't he? I think he's doing what he meant to do.
Which was?
Well, I don't know how you'd put it into words, but certainly to I think he would have liked to have seen himself as a dictator of this country. He'll not get that. But he's done this country a tremendous amount of damage. And I think that he will be quite proud of that fact. He is, because he's saying today about his magnificent men. And I would like everyone to see what his magnificent men have done to two ordinary people that have just worked. They're not particularly good, they're not particularly bad, they're just ordinary people. And if any man can, and a public figure can stand up and say that those people are magnificent, then they're warped. So he must in his mind think that he's won, because he's certainly beaten us in the end, hasn't he?
I think I've done everything that the boss has asked me, and everything I think that the coal boat should ask me. And then today, nobody says goodbye. It's been strange, very strange. People don't talk, or people don't hear you, and then you don't know whether they're not talking or not. But we've managed to get through. That's all I wanted to do. I've got to not lose my temper, because many times when they tried to trip me up or silly little things like that, you could draw you, and I have a temper. But today's the day, and I haven't lost my temper.
What do you feel about these people? Do you understand how they react towards you?
No, I don't. I don't. Because these chaps are intelligent chaps. They're not stupid. And they can't be thinking what they're doing. That's what I can't understand about them.
What would normally happen after all those years of service at a pit like this? What would normally have happened on a date?
Normally, they would have a party, and, you know, a drink too, and you'll have a present. But unfortunately, not for me. Not even a word of cheerio or goodbye. From the boss down to the bottom, nobody.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can just have your attention just for a few minutes. First of all, a belated welcome to our house. May I say what a pleasure it was when Albert asked me if we could use this house to host his retirement party. The National Coal Board, believe it or believe it not, lost a good man last Wednesday, wasn't it, Albert? He walked out on last Wednesday. When someone's worked 33 years for a firm, you'd expect somebody to come along and give him a gold watch, or have a bit of a collection for him, or give him a scroll with...
Oh, thank you.
Or with gold edging on or something like that, or present him with a silver tea set, but unfortunately there's nobody here. He's had a lot of trouble, and with other people who's had trouble, and every credit to him. I'm very proud of him that he went back. Another person I think I must mention before we sort of ask Albert to make a big long speech, and that is Nora. Come here, Nora.
Well, I'll come, but it's nothing to do with me, really, you know, Jeff.
I don't think that Albert could have managed this last 12 months without a wife like Nora. She's supported him 100%. She's been very enthusiastic. She's stood by him through thick and thin, and she's done really well. And I'd like to thank you, Nora, on behalf of the family and your friends for helping Albert out and looking after him. Okay, and I'd also like to thank all his friends over there.
Oh, that's most of it. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to take this final opportunity in wishing Albert and Nora every happiness and good health in their retirement.
I've got all my support team here, and I've got all my friends here. So it's the night that I saw a long time to forget.
There's you, Albert, and there are thousands of other miners younger than you who have spent enough time down the pit, Albert, who should have been able to accept redundancy, but for Arthur Scargill. What a shame that the average miner placed so much faith in Arthur Scargill, who wanted to deprive you, Albert, of what you've got now, what I've got, because I'm redundant as well. You know, so there's nothing wrong with redundancy, Albert, because that's the only way you get justice. You know.
Well, how do you feel tonight on this occasion?
Relieved. Mostly. Very happy, really, yes. A bit sad for him, I suppose.
Do you think he's sad?
Well, he was sad this morning. I think he's happy today. But yes, he was. He was very sad this morning, but yes.
There's one member of your family who isn't here. That's your son, Tim.
Yes.
Why isn't he here?
We went down this morning, but he wouldn't come. So the excuse was that he was on afternoons, and also that the car wouldn't start. But I think they were excuses, because obviously we would have brought him. And I'm sorry, because I think it needed courage to come in Timmy's position. And so I'd have liked him to have had that courage.
Hello, Sam. So what are you doing, eh? I got what I wanted most in life. I wanted to be able to retire, and, you know, with my health, and I have done.
Do you think about the pit, and do you think about the strike at all?
Well, yes, but it's fading, and it's fading faster than I thought it would do. You see, I don't have a lot to do, you know, with miners, and therefore, you know, I'm more interested in talking about cars or the garden than what I am about the strike. And as soon as the strike's over, it's fading fast.
6 months ago, at the height of the strike, you were talking of it as a battle. I wonder if you're reflecting on any kind of victory now.
No, I don't think anyone could have won. It isn't a battle that you could win. It's a battle that you've got to fight, but you're not going to win when you're finished.
Nora, what happened with the window?
Well, I should imagine it was a bullet. Can't imagine it was anything else, but we were upstairs in bed. And I heard a noise and jumped out, and it was gone. But we didn't see anybody. To be honest, it doesn't really bother me now. I think I'm growing used to it. We went back to bed after this one.
But it must mean pressure for you and Albert.
Well, yes, I suppose it does, but it not like it was. I think, you know, you get used to anything in time, don't you?
How long can you live with this?
As long as I have to, I think. If Nick cracks up, then I suppose we shall move, or if the children exert too much pressure, but not much point in going through this much, is there, and then backing it up.
I'm their daughter, and they've been very good to me. And I would like them to move because I worry about them. But I don't know if they want to move. They've lived here all their lives, or virtually all their married lives. It's the only home they've ever had. And my dad's worked very hard in the garden all his life for his retirement. And it just seems so unjust that now that he has the time to enjoy it, because he's always been a 7-day-a-week man, he's never had time to enjoy it before, now that he has the time, that he's going to be done out of it.
I wouldn't want to move. And I think that, unfortunately, the area that we can move in, we're not going to get away from the troubles that we have. Now, to move, as I said, about 100 miles away, that would cure it. But it would also put something else up then. We would have lost his family, and they wouldn't be happy then, because we'd be too far away. So, you know, between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Nora, what happened?
Well, about 1:30 on Monday morning, Nick had just gone to the toilet and I was in bed. And a rock came through this window, followed by 2 or 3 others. And of course you can see what happened to the glass. Showered all over the bed and me. Well, these are some of the rocks. I don't know if you can gauge the weight of them from there. Well, I'm a cook. Certainly heavier than a 2-pound bag of sugar. 1 pebble would have broken that window. They didn't need as many as came in, all nor as big nor as heavy. They've had plenty of experience to know that. They only have to make 1 hole, and the glass has to be replaced. So when they go to the lengths they did on Sunday night, then obviously there's more to it than just breaking a window and making us uncomfortable.
What sort of freedom is it, lying in your bed night after night, worrying about this kind of thing?
What sort of freedom isn't it? This is my home. What are you going to take away from me? 35 years of work? The only home, married home I've had. You're not going to do it, you know. My son-in-law rang up yesterday and begged us to move into his house and just forget this one. You know nobody wants mother-in-law. But anyway, obviously we wouldn't do it. This is our fight, it's not theirs. But by the same token as I've given them freedom, I must have freedom. That again comes the big F, doesn't it? I have the freedom to choose and I decide that I will stay here.
We're not going to gain anything by trying to hang on and try to stand up to principles. We're going to lose out because as long as we stick, I think, harder they will come onto us. Until I think eventually we'll either move or they'll move us. So I think we will be better off moving. But at the end of the day, it's a partnership, is this? The reason why I think we ought to move is because I fear that I'm not going to be physically strong enough if they do invade or try to break in. I don't think I should be strong enough to hold them back. Not without arms or something like that.
Which of you two is now the stronger member of this partnership?
Which one has always been the stronger part of our partnership? My wife.
Talking about physical or mental?
Mentally, always. Physically, well, obviously. But mentally, my wife has always run the show.
Oh, yeah.
Come here, Sim.
Can't quite see what they're going to do because they're going all round the outside of it, aren't they?
Come here, Sim. I'll put him on the lead now.
Will you?
I don't want him to run off the road.
No, go on then. Go on the road.
Knocking about.
Good fella. Good lad. I haven't got any regrets. We didn't go into it expecting it to be an easy deal. I haven't honestly got any regrets. Come here, Sim. Don't wander off.
Are you determined now to stay put?
I always was.
Sure. She hasn't changed, so it doesn't make a difference. That.
Is there anything you might have done differently, looking back?
Yes, I think differently. Yes, I would never come on strike. I would have worked through.
You wouldn't. You wouldn't. You can say that, but you know that you wouldn't. So no, you wouldn't have done that.
How are things on Saturday nights?
Oh, quite good. We've done quite well. Very well, in fact. Yes. I think it's quieting down, don't you?
Yeah. If we had a bit of a noise, you still...
Oh, yes.
You'll never be the same as what you was before the strike. You hear a noise and, what's that? What? Before, I mean, it was just an ordinary noise and nobody bothered about it. But now, you're on guard all the time.
Yeah. Another one. We'll cross over. It's Jack anyway.
Stop down there.
Yeah. That's it, top. Can you hear it?
Yeah, yeah. I hope that the sound thing picks it up.
I hope they do too. Who's got